They called it luck, said it was a trick, but no one saw the sleepless nights, the calculations scribbled in secret, or the unshakable determination to prove her worth. Now, before everyone, she has just one chance to show that talent and dedication. About the neighborhood of Hopeville, on the outskirts of São Paulo, when 14-year-old Danielle Oliver crossed the rusty gate of her home, with her shoulders slumped and her eyes red, she tried to hide the tears that still stubbornly streamed down her face. Her simple, already faded uniform contrasted with the brand-name clothes she saw every day in the hallways of Dr. Paulo Freire Public School, where she studied thanks to a partial scholarship that her parents, with great sacrifice, managed to maintain. Daughter of Ana Lucia and Robert, northeastern immigrants who had left the Pernambuco hinterland in search of better living conditions, in the capital of São Paulo, Danielle had grown up hearing jokes about her strong accent, inherited from her parents, and her simple appearance. Her father worked as a security guard at a shopping mall, while her mother cleaned houses in the nearby upscale neighborhood. Money was always tight, every penny had a specific purpose. "Danny, my dear, what happened?" asked Ana Lucia when she saw the girl enter with her head down, dropping her patched-up backpack on the worn-out couch in the small living room. "Nothing, Mom," replied Danielle, trying to disguise her feelings, but her choked voice betrayed her. Ana Lucia, with hands still damp and red from housework, approached her daughter and stroked her curly hair. Was it that girl again, the one named Camilla? Danielle took a deep breath. Camilla Monroe was the leader of the popular girls at school, the daughter of the owner of a supermarket chain. Her favorite pastime was humiliating those who didn't belong to her privileged social circle. Today, it was everyone, Mom. Even Mr. Thompson. Ana Lucia frowned, indignant. Mr. Michael Thompson taught math, a subject in which Danielle had always excelled, even with borrowed library books and without the means to pay for private tutoring. What happened? Danielle sat at the kitchen table, eyeing the simple dinner her mother was preparing. Rice, beans, and a fried egg for each. Luxury was reserved for weekends, when her father brought home a piece of meat or chicken. He called me to solve an equation on the board. It was something simple, Mom, but I got confused. I was nervous, everyone was watching. Her voice faltered. I messed up a basic multiplication and the whole class started laughing. Camilla said out loud that, not even as a nerd does the slum girl cut it. Ana Lucia gripped her daughter's hand tightly. And the teacher? He shook his head and said he expected more from me, like I had disappointed him. Danielle wiped a stubborn tear. But that wasn't all, Mom. Before class ended, he proposed a challenge. A differential equation that even he couldn't solve in his head. He said whoever brought the solution tomorrow would get extra credit. Robert arrived at that moment, his body tired after 12 hours of work, but his smile always ready for his daughter and wife. "My math princess is here," he exclaimed, kissing the top of Danielle's head. "Dad, I'm not feeling much like a princess today," she replied, forcing a smile. During dinner, Danielle remained quiet, pushing her food around with her fork, her mind replaying the day's humiliation. But something inside her refused to give in to despair. A stubbornness inherited from her parents, who had faced drought, hunger, and prejudice to build a life in São Paulo. "Knowledge is the only thing no one can take from you," her father always said, repeating what his illiterate grandmother had taught him before passing away. After helping her mother with the dishes, Danielle retreated to the small room she shared with the household supply boxes. She turned on the improvised lamp, a bulb hanging from a wire, and opened her worn-out notebook on the crate-made desk. She took out the paper with the challenge Mr. Thompson had given her. It was a complex differential equation, the kind that only appeared in university-level books. Danielle had read about them at the public library, where she spent Saturday afternoons devouring advanced math books while her classmates went to the mall. "Let's do this," she murmured to herself, picking up her well-used pencil. Hours passed without her noticing. Robert came to say goodnight and found his daughter immersed in calculations. "Don't stay up too late, Princess. You have school tomorrow." "Just a little longer, Dad. I'm almost there." Around 3 a.m., When the silence in the favela was broken only by the distant bark of a dog, Danielle felt that unique sensation, the shiver down her spine that always came when she was about to unravel a mathematical mystery. Her hands trembled slightly as she wrote the last line of calculations. "My God," she whispered, checking the result 3 times. "It's correct." Exhausted, but with a smile on her lips, Danielle finally allowed herself to lie down. Tomorrow would be a new day, a day when no one would laugh at her, a day when she would prove her worth not by the clothes she wore or the neighborhood she lived in, but by what her mind was capable of creating. The alarm clock rang at 5:30 a.m. With her eyes burning from lack of sleep, Danielle quickly got ready, putting on the uniform her mother had ironed with such care. At breakfast, Ana Lucia noticed the mix of exhaustion and determination on her daughter's face. "Did you manage to solve that problem?" "I did, Mom," she replied, feeling a pang of pride. "At least I think so." "I'm sure you did." Ana Lucia smiled, placing a simple sandwich in her daughter's lunchbox. "You're smarter than all of them combined." The walk to school had never felt so long. Danielle mentally rehearsed how she would present the solution. She feared stuttering, trembling, becoming the target of more laughter. But something had changed inside her during that night of calculations. A quiet certainty that for once she would have the last word. As she entered the classroom, she felt the usual stares. Camilla and her group whispered in a corner, casting disdainful glances her way. Danielle took a deep breath and took her seat in the front row, a spot chosen not out of preference, but because it was where her glasses, taped together with adhesive, I could see the board. Mr. Thompson entered with his usual serious expression. After taking attendance, he asked, "Did anyone manage to solve yesterday's challenge?" Silence filled the room. Not even the students who took expensive private lessons raised their hands. The teacher smiled as if he had expected this. "It was tough, wasn't it? In fact, this is a problem usually tackled in engineering colleges." It was then that Danielle, with her heart racing, timidly raised her hand. A tomb-like silence fell over the room as Danielle's trembling hand went up. Mr. Thompson's eyes widened, clearly surprised to see the very student who had stumbled over a simple calculation the day before. "You, Oliver?" he asked, his tone a mix of disbelief and curiosity. Danielle swallowed hard. She could feel every eye on her. The muffled giggles from Camilla and her group were already starting to echo through the room. "Yes, sir," she replied, her voice so soft it was barely audible. "Well, then come to the board and show us your solution," challenged the teacher, crossing his arms. Danielle stood up, her legs feeling weak as if they might give out at any moment. She grabbed her worn-out notebook and slowly walked to the front of the class. Each step felt like an eternity. Camilla's mocking laugh rang out. "Gonna embarrass yourself again, slum girl?" Mr. Thompson shot a disapproving look at the rich girl but said nothing. Danielle stopped in front of the whiteboard, picked up the marker and for a moment froze. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and remembered her father's words from the night before. "You're a math princess." Then, as if an unknown force took over her body, she began to write. Her hand, once trembling, now glided with precision across the board. Equations, derivatives, integrals, math flowed like music. The room remained in absolute silence as she explained each step with surprising clarity. This way, applying the fundamental theorem of calculus and isolating the variable x, we reached the final result, Danielle concluded, underlining the number she had arrived at 3 a.m. Mr. Thompson approached the board, analyzing each line written by his student. He pulled a scientific calculator from his pocket and did some checks. The tension was palpable. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he turned to the class with a look of genuine astonishment. "It's correct," he said, his voice choked with surprise. "Completely correct. Impressive, Oliver." The room erupted in murmurs. No one could believe that Danielle, the poor girl from the favela, with her second-hand clothes and northeastern accent, had solved a problem that not even the children of doctors and lawyers from the upscale neighborhood could crack. "That can't be right," protested Camilla, standing up from her seat. "She must have cheated somehow." And where would she have cheated from, Munro? Countered the teacher. This is a problem I developed myself for a university competition. It's not in any book or website. Danielle remained silent, the chalk still in her hands, feeling a mix of pride and apprehension. She had never been the center of attention like this before. Can you explain how you arrived at this approach? Asked the teacher, genuinely interested. I read about differential equations at the public library, she replied, gaining more confidence with each word. And I realized that if we applied a variable substitution, we could transform this equation into a more manageable form. For nearly 10 minutes, Danielle explained her reasoning using terms and concepts that impressed even Mr. Thompson. When she finished, there was a moment of silence, followed by something she never expected: applause. Timid at first, coming mainly from the less popular students, but soon spreading throughout the room. 10 extra points for Oliver, announced the teacher, and I want to talk to you after class. As she returned to her seat, Danielle felt different. The looks she received were no longer of disdain but of curiosity, and in some cases respect. Camilla, on the other hand, seethed with anger in her corner, whispering furiously with her friends. The rest of the class passed in a blur. When the bell rang, signaling the break, Danielle remained in her seat, waiting for her conversation with Mr. Thompson, who was organizing his materials. Oliver. Danielle, he began, sitting in the chair next to hers. I must admit I underestimated you, and I apologize for that. Danielle's eyes widened. She had never imagined a teacher would apologize to her. How long have you been studying? Advanced math on your own, he asked. Since I was 10, sir, she replied timidly, when I discovered the math section at the public library. Mrs. Connie, the librarian, always helps me find new books. Mr. Thompson nodded thoughtfully. Did you know there's a Brazilian public school math Olympiad? He asked. The registrations for this year are still open. With your talent, you could go far. Danielle's heart raced. She had heard of the BPSMO, of course, but had never thought she could participate. But I don't have money. For specialized study materials, she murmured. That's not a problem, he smiled. I can lend you my books and tutor you on Wednesday afternoons after school. What do you think? Tears of emotion welled up in Danielle's eyes. It was the first time someone other than her parents had believed in her. I'd love that, sir. Thank you so much. As she left the classroom for the break, Danielle was surprised by a group of students who had never spoken to her before. Among them was Peter Mendelssohn, a quiet boy who always carried science fiction books. That was incredible, Danielle, he said with genuine admiration. I've never seen anyone solve an equation like that so quickly. Thank you, she replied, still unaccustomed to compliments. We're forming a study group for the college entrance exams, Peter continued. Would you like to join? We could meet at the public library. Before she could answer, Danielle felt someone bump hard into her shoulder. It was Camilla with her group of followers. Don't get too full of yourself, slum girl, she hissed. One lucky day doesn't change who you are. Leave her alone, Camilla, interjected Peter to everyone's surprise. Camilla shot a look of disdain at both of them and walked away, but not before adding, This isn't over. No one humiliates me and gets away with it. Danielle felt a chill down her spine at the threat, but tried not to show it. She focused on Peter's offer. I'd love to join the study group, she replied with a shy smile. The rest of the school day passed surprisingly pleasantly. For the first time, Danielle didn't eat lunch alone. Peter and a few other classmates invited her to sit with them, interested in learning more about the girl who had impressed the demanding Mr. Thompson. When she returned home that afternoon, Danielle could barely contain her excitement. She found her mother preparing dinner, her face tired after a day of cleaning houses. Mom, you won't believe what happened today, she exclaimed, hugging Anna Lucia. As she recounted the day's events, Danielle saw her mother's face transform. The lines of exhaustion gave way to a proud smile. I always knew you were special, my dear, said Anna Lucia, holding Danielle's hands. Ever since you were little, you had this knack for numbers. Remember when you helped me check the change at the market at just 5 years old? Danielle nodded, remembering how her math skills had always come naturally, like breathing. "And the teacher is going to help you with this Olympiad?" asked Ana Lucia. "Yes, Mom. And if I do well, I could win a scholarship for high school at a better school, and maybe even for college." Ana Lucia hugged her daughter tightly. In that moment, both dreamed of a different future, one where Danielle's talent would open doors that had always been closed to people like them. When Robert came home from work, he was greeted with the exciting news. His tired eyes sparkled with pride. "See, Princess? What did I always tell you? Knowledge is the only thing no one can take from you," Danielle finished, smiling. That night, after dinner, Danielle retreated to her small room. She looked at the calendar on the wall where she had marked the date of the BPSMO. Exactly 2 months away. It wasn't much, time to prepare, but she was determined to give it her all. She opened the new notebook Mr. Thompson had given her, smelling the fresh pages. "This is the start of a new story," she thought, writing on the first page. "Study journal for the BPSMO." What Danielle didn't know was that Camilla Monroe had also gone home with plans. Plans that didn't involve just verbal humiliation, but something much darker. The businessman's daughter couldn't accept being outshone by a slum girl, as she called Danielle, and she would do everything to ensure her rival's sudden brilliance was quickly extinguished. The following weeks brought a new routine for Danielle. On Wednesdays, she stayed after school for study sessions with Mr. Thompson. On Saturdays, she met with Peter and the others at the public library. Mrs. Connie, the librarian who had always welcomed her, made a study room available exclusively for the group. "I'm so proud to see you finally finding your place, Danielle," Mrs. Connie commented as she set aside advanced math books for her. "I always knew this day would come." At home, she turned her small space into a study sanctuary. Her parents, noticing their daughter's dedication, made an even greater sacrifice. They bought a used desk from a charity thrift store. Danielle's joy at receiving the gift was immeasurable. "Now you have a proper place to build your future, Princess," said Robert, tears in his eyes after they set up the desk in her cramped room. The change wasn't just physical. Danielle, once reserved and insecure, began to speak with more confidence in class. Her grades, already good, became exceptional. Students from other classes sought her out for help. The slum girl was gradually becoming the math genius of Dr. Paulo Freire Public School. However, not everything was rosy. Camilla intensified her harassment, now more discreet but more venomous. The whispers in the hallways increased. Malicious rumors began to circulate that Danielle was stealing tests, copying homework, or worse, trading favors with teachers for good grades. "Don't listen to that nonsense," advised Peter, who had become her closest friend. "They're just jealous because you earn with talent what they can't even get with money." But the hardest blow came 3 weeks before the BPSMO. Danielle arrived at school to find her locker broken into. Her Olympiad preparation notebooks, with meticulous notes and weeks of solved exercises, were gone. In their place was an anonymous note. "Give up. Your place isn't here." Tears in her eyes, Danielle went to Mr. Thompson, who immediately reported the incident to the principal. An investigation was launched, but without security cameras in the hallways and no witnesses willing to come forward, it would be hard to find the culprit. "I know it's a big setback, Danielle," said the teacher, trying to comfort her, "but you have something no one can steal, your brilliant mind. Let's start over." That afternoon, instead of their usual study session, Mr. Thompson took Danielle to a cafe across from the school, something he had never done with any other student. "You know, Danielle," he began, stirring his coffee, "I also come from a humble family. My father was a bricklayer and my mother was a washerwoman. I grew up in a community in Rio de Janeiro." Danielle looked at the teacher in surprise. She would never have imagined that this elegant man, with his impeccable suits and refined vocabulary, shared a background similar to hers. "When I was about your age, I also participated in the BPSMO," he continued, "and like you, I faced prejudice and sabotage. My middle-class classmates couldn't accept that a favelado could be better than them at math." "What did you do?" asked Danielle, eager for a solution. "I turned my anger into fuel," he replied with an enigmatic smile. "I studied even harder. And you know what happened? I won a gold medal in the Olympiad. A federal university offered me a full scholarship. Today, I have a master's in applied math and am a tenured teacher. Danielle absorbed every word like a sponge. His story was living proof that her dream was possible. "I won't let them defeat me, sir," Danielle said with renewed determination. "I'll start rewriting my notes today." Mr. Thompson smiled, proud. "That's exactly what I hoped to hear from you." The theft of Danielle's notebooks ended up having the opposite effect of what the perpetrator intended. Instead of giving up, she doubled her efforts. She studied during lunch, between classes, and even during her bus rides. Peter and the other study group members shared their own notes, creating a support network that surprised everyone. Even some teachers who had barely noticed her before offered additional study materials when they heard what had happened. Principal Martha, a stern but fair woman, called Danielle into her office to express her support. "This school is proud of students like you, Oliver," she declared, adjusting her glasses. "Don't let small-minded people shrink your big dreams." A week before the BPSMO, the most surprising turn occurred. Danielle was in the library during break, solving problems from past Olympiads, when Fernanda Silva, one of Camilla's closest friends, approached hesitantly. "Can I talk to you?" she asked, nervously glancing around. Suspicious, Danielle nodded. Fernanda sat across from her, clearly uncomfortable. "I know who took your notebooks," she said in a low voice. "It was Camilla. She told me yesterday after drinking. At Ricardo's birthday party. She said she threw them in the mall trash." Danielle felt a mix of anger and sadness. She had been sure Camilla was behind it, but hearing the confirmation was different. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. Fernanda hesitated, biting her lower lip. "Because she's planning something worse for the day of the Olympiad," she revealed. "I don't know exactly what, but I heard her talking about putting something in your drink to make you sick during the test." A chill ran down Danielle's spine. This was no longer just schoolyard rivalry, it was criminal. "I need you to come with me to the principal's office," Danielle said, gathering her materials. "Ms. Martha needs to know about this." "I can't," Fernanda exclaimed. Frightened, "Camilla will find out it was me who told. My parents work for her dad. If he finds out..." Danielle understood the dilemma. The Monroe family's power extended far beyond the school walls. "Then why warn me?" Fernanda looked down. "Because this has gone too far. Teasing someone is one thing, but sabotaging their future is another. And to be honest, I was impressed when you solved that equation. I'd never seen anything like it." After Fernanda left, Danielle was deep in thought. Should she report Camilla even without a witness? Who would believe a scholarship student over the daughter of the school's biggest benefactor? She decided to talk to Peter and Mr. Thompson. Both were alarmed by the information. "We need to be prepared," Mr. Thompson concluded. "On the day of the Olympiad, don't accept any food or drinks from anyone. I'll bring a sealed water bottle for you." Peter went further. "I'll talk to some friends. We can take turns keeping an eye on Camilla in the days before the test. If she tries anything, we'll have witnesses." The day of the BPSMO finally arrived. Danielle had barely slept the night before, a mix of anxiety about the test and fear of sabotage. Her parents walked her to the school gate, which would serve as the testing site. "Remember, Princess," said Robert, straightening the collar of the clean-ironed shirt he'd worn especially for the occasion, "no matter the result, we're already proud of you." Anna Lucia, who had taken the day off to be there, handed her daughter a small package. "For good luck," she smiled. Emotional. Inside the package, Danielle found a new pencil with her name engraved, a luxury her family rarely afforded. As she entered the building, Danielle found Mr. Thompson waiting at the door as promised, with a sealed water bottle. Peter and other study group members were also there, forming an impromptu escort. "Any sign of her?" Danielle asked, referring to Camilla. "Not yet," Peter replied, "but don't worry, we're watching." The participants were directed to their assigned rooms. Danielle went to her designated spot, where she found students from various schools in the region. The tension was visible on everyone's faces. As she arranged her materials on the desk, she felt someone sit next to her. It was Camilla. "Surprised to see me, slum girl," she whispered with a malicious smile. "I signed up for the Olympiad too. Wanted to see your face when you realized you're not so special after all." Danielle took a deep breath, recalling Mr. Thompson's words. "Turn your anger into fuel." "Glad you decided to join, Camilla," she replied calmly. "Math is for everyone. Good luck." The serene response threw Camilla off as she had expected fear or irritation. Before she could retort, the proctors entered the room distributing the sealed test booklets. "Do not open until instructed." The proctor, a teacher from another school, instructed, "You will have 4 hours to complete the exam." As she waited, Danielle noticed Camilla placing something in her pencil case. Discreetly, she pushed the object away, as if just organizing her materials. Camilla frowned, frustrated. "You may begin," the proctor announced, checking the clock. Danielle opened the booklet and felt a chill as she saw the questions. They were challenging, but not impossible. She started with the easier problems, gradually gaining confidence. Beside her, she noticed Camilla already showing signs of desperation, scribbling furiously and then erasing. 3 hours later, Danielle had answered almost all the questions. Only one particularly complex problem remained, involving analytic geometry and vector calculus. She closed her eyes for a moment, visualizing the solution. When she looked back at the paper, everything seemed clear. Confidently, she wrote the final calculations and checked her answers. With 15 minutes left, she turned in her test. Camilla watched her with hatred, still struggling with the first questions. As she left the room, Danielle found Mr. Thompson in the hallway, anxious. "How was it?" he asked, concerned. "I think it went well," she replied with a tired smile. The questions were in line with what we studied. In the courtyard, her parents waited, visibly nervous. Seeing their daughter emerge with a smile, they rushed to hug her. "How did it go, Princess?" Robert asked, emotional. "I did my best, Dad," she replied. "Now we wait for the results." For the next 6 weeks, anxiety dominated Danielle's life. She continued studying as usual, but her thoughts always returned to the BPSMO. At school, Camilla had become strangely quiet after her failure in the test. The rumors about Danielle also died down, especially after Principal Martha made a stern announcement about respect and bullying. Finally, on a Friday afternoon, Mr. Thompson burst into the classroom during history class, holding an official envelope and tears in his eyes. "I need to speak with Danielle Oliver," he said, barely containing his emotion. All eyes turned to her. With her heart racing, Danielle stood and walked to the door. In the hallway, the teacher handed her the envelope. "Open it," he encouraged, his smile saying it all. With trembling hands, Danielle tore open the envelope. Inside was a certificate with the BPSMO logo and the words that would change her life forever. Gold medal. I did it," she stammered, incredulous. "Not only did you do it, but you also scored the highest in the state of São Paulo." Mr. Thompson exclaimed, hugging her. "This means a full scholarship for high school at Objective College and later at any federal university in the country." The news spread through the school like wildfire. Students left their classrooms to see what was happening. Principal Martha appeared, followed by other teachers. Within minutes, Danielle was surrounded by applause and congratulations. In the crowd, she spotted Camilla, standing at a distance with an unreadable expression. For a brief moment, their eyes met. Surprisingly, Camilla gave a slight nod, something that could almost be interpreted as reluctant acknowledgement. That night, the small house in Hopeville hosted a modest celebration. Neighbors brought what they could, a simple cake, soda, snacks. Mr. Thompson arrived with a scientific calculator as a gift. Peter and the study group came with flowers. Amid the celebration, Danielle stepped away for a moment, going to the backyard to breathe. She looked up at the starry sky, remembering the day she had messed up that simple multiplication on the board, the laughter, the humiliation. "What are you thinking about, Princess?" her father asked, approaching with a cup of soda. "How much has changed in such a short time?" she replied, emotional. "And how much more will change?" Robert hugged his daughter by the shoulders. "You know what your grandma always said? That knowledge is like a star. It shines brightest in the dark. Danielle smiled, looking back at the sky. She was right, Dad. She was absolutely right. 3 years later, Danielle walked through the main gate of the University of São Paulo, carrying a new backpack, a graduation gift from her parents. She had finished high school with honors and placed first in the aerospace engineering program. On campus, she spotted a familiar figure, Mr. Thompson, now teaching at the university, as an assistant professor while completing his doctorate. "Ready for the next challenge, Danielle?" he asked with the same proud smile from years ago. "More than ever, sir," she replied, confident. As they walked together through the halls, Danielle realized her story was just beginning. The shy girl from the favela had become a confident, a young woman ready to conquer the world, and it had all started with an equation, a challenge, and the courage to raise her hand in that classroom. Because, in the end, her worth had never been in the clothes she wore, the neighborhood she lived in, or the opinions of others. Her worth was in what she knew and what she was capable of achieving. And that, no one could ever take from her.